You're on the Flow Morning Show with Ricky Lambert, and we're going to talk about what politicians get up to behind closed doors. And I'm not talking about things that might have given rise to a bonking ban in Canberra. I'm actually talking about corruption. There are a couple of reasons this came to mind today to talk with you about. First of all, it's the 7-year anniversary of former New South Wales Premier Barry O'Farrell resigning from being the Premier of the state over a $3,000 bottle of Penfolds Grange that he received as a gift shortly after winning office in 2011. But I was also reminded of the need to address corruption in politics when our Canberra correspondent John McDonnell wrote for today's flownews24.com.au website about the calls that have been made for an independent commission against corruption at the federal level, and how some people who advocate for that need to just be careful what positions they take when it comes to some political matters so they don't undermine their argument. But let's quickly survey just where we are at around the country when it comes to having an independent commission against corruption. And New South Wales has the strongest and most, if you like, successful ICAC in the sense that it has brought down quite a number of politicians over its journey in investigating corruption in politics. It certainly laid waste to the Labor Party and kept them out of office, and they've been out of office for some time because of matters that were investigated by ICAC there. But as I said, it's also brought down a Liberal Premier and previous high-profile politicians from both sides of politics in New South Wales. And there was a strong push for this in the early 2000s across the nation to be implemented in other states, and most states have a form of an investigative body. In Victoria, there's the Independent Broad-Based Anti-Corruption Commission, or IBAC, and in South Australia there is also an ICAC. Now, South Australia has suddenly shot to prominence when it comes to these sorts of allegations because police have arrested a former Labor MP who ran twice for the seat of Boothby, now occupied by Nicole Flint, and ran and successfully then won a South Australian state seat but only held it for one term. Her name's Annabelle Digance, and her husband, both she and he have been arrested by police this week and charged with blackmail. But who were they blackmailing? The Labor opposition leader. That's the allegation. And the claims that are surrounding this is that Ms. Digance was desperate to get a seat in state or federal politics again, and suffice it to say that Mr. Malinauskas, the South Australian Labor opposition leader, was sufficiently concerned about what she was suggesting she would say in the public arena about him that he went to the police, and the police were sufficiently concerned that they've laid blackmail charges. Now, there's a South Australian state election in 11 months, so this is going to have a major shape on the election as this all plays out in the courts. But it does highlight the dirty games that are sometimes played in politics to achieve a particular result. And I've worked in state and federal politics in South Australia's Parliament House and in the federal parliament. You do very often see lobbyists and people that have been major donors to political parties in the corridors of power in Canberra and South Australia's parliament, looking to meet with the MPs that they have helped to get to where they are and looking for the outcomes that they expected to get when they made donations to their parties. So you may see on television politicians saying they're there to represent the interests of their constituents, but when it comes to power and major decisions that might influence whether, say, a particular project goes ahead or doesn't go ahead that might be worth millions and millions of dollars to a donor, it makes sense that they're going to try and influence politicians to get the outcome that they want. So it does bring me to the glaring anomaly where there is not a federal independent commission against corruption, and it's fair to say that the New South Wales ICAC has been criticised for getting too big for its boots, looking for scalps that it can take down and get some more publicity for its great work. So we do want to make sure that if we have a federal independent commission against corruption, it isn't one that gets out of control or so full of itself that it starts creating outcomes that are more designed to secure headlines for the ICAC itself rather than actually uncovering and securing prosecutions for corrupt behaviour.